Huberman possible with a full-time job? I'm gonna say no.
We all know those videos about the optimized morning routine that is going to unlock your highest potential, but they always seem to be made by CEOs who can afford the home gym and wearable tech that make these optimized routines just out of reach for the rest of us. Enter Andrew Huberman. Now, Andrew Huberman is a neuroscientist who has recently gotten a lot of fame in the productivity space for his science-backed daily routine. And on its face, a science-backed routine seems like it is pretty accessible for the everyman. You don't need a ton of money to go outside and see the sun every day, for example. But what you do need is time. People who can copy his routine exactly have the flexibility in their work and personal life to manage their own schedules and have enough time in the day to try elaborate science-backed routines. If you haven't guessed already, I am not that person. And if you're watching this, you're probably not that person either. Maybe you have a 9-to-5, 40-hour-a-week work commitment like I do, or maybe you have kids or other obligations that keep you from having enough time in the day to fit in all these optimized, supercharged suggestions for your routine. So in this video, I wanted to see if Huberman's daily routine could fit into an already packed schedule, and if it's even worth it to try. Let's get into it.
Okay, so the Huberman daily routine has several steps, and they are all very specific, science-backed. You can truly find as specific of a resource on how to do each of these steps perfectly according to science if you really look. I am going to walk you through the basics and tell you about how I will do them, some of which is following the science exactly, some of which is not, because I just don't have time. So where I'm able to, I'm going to tell you what I'm cutting corners on and what I'm not. So let's get started. So first, Andrew Huberman wakes up and he notes the time. So usually he says he wakes up at around 6 and he writes down the time, 6 or 6:30, and he writes down the time that he wakes up. And then he goes to get sun exposure immediately. And the sun exposure, he says, on a sunny day, you want to spend about 10 minutes outside in the sun, getting sunlight into your eyes to help kickstart your circadian rhythm. So when you do this, it will then tell your body, like 18 hours later or 16 hours later, an amount of hours later, it'll tell your body, okay, now it's time to go to sleep. So this is really helping you with that sleep-wake cycle that most of us break completely by like using our phones or never seeing the sun. This helps kickstart that so that you have a healthier sleep-wake cycle so that you don't feel so tired all the time. But you need at least 10 minutes outside on a sunny day, 20 to 30 minutes on a cloudy day. I live in Southern California. I'm crossing my fingers for that sun we are so famous for to just be in existence all week, so I don't have to spend 30 minutes outside. Then he has morning hydration, so he drinks his water, which we all should do. I guess you could bundle hydration with sun exposure. I might do that. We'll see. Because he intermittent fasts, so he also intermittent fasts, and because he intermittent fasts, he also has salt water, and I think drinks like green powder with his morning hydration. I will probably just be rocking regular ass water because I don't have any salt packets and I don't feel like doing a green situation. So we'll see. I might add some salt, but probably I'll just drink some water because I think the hydration is the most important part of that. And then he meditates for 10 to 15 minutes. He does a very specific type of meditation. I am not a meditator, so I'm going to start with some very basic meditations on an app probably, or YouTube, but about 10 to 15 minutes to help with focus. I anticipate for me that all of this is going to take about 30 minutes of a morning. It might take more some mornings, it might take less some mornings, but generally I think this will take me about 30 minutes. After he meditates, he has a 90-minute deep work block. So it takes him about 30 minutes to get through the other morning activities that he has to do, which gives your brain time to wake up, and then you are ready to do your most productive deep work. Andrew Huberman says that this is the time in the day where you should work on your most important tasks. It is also a great time for learning if you need to do any learning or information, sort of like learning information. But whatever is most important, your brain is going to be at its peak faculties at this point in the morning, a little bit after you have woken up. And then he has caffeine. So he says that caffeine is really basically useless to your body if you have it in this like 30-minute block, or if you have it even within an hour and a half of waking up, I think is what he says. So it's unclear to me whether he waits until after the 90-minute deep work block to have caffeine, or whether he has his caffeine during the 90-minute work block. But either way, he says 90 minutes after waking is when you should allow yourself to have caffeine, if you're going to allow yourself to have caffeine at all, because that way it doesn't disrupt any of these natural, beautiful circadian rhythms that we just worked so hard to establish with sun exposure. And then he has a workout block. I have 1 hour here because I know working out takes me about an hour between putting on my workout clothes, getting to the gym, doing my sweating. It'll take me about an hour. So I have an hour there. Andrew Huberman is like a super built dude. He is very buff. So he spends more time in the gym than I do probably. But either way, he has a movement block in here. I'm going to do what works for me because I know my body. If I just like started spending 2 hours in the gym every day, first of all, who has the time? Second of all, I would die. So I'm going to do a 1 hour workout block that includes everything from getting ready and getting to the gym to actually working out. And then he has cold exposure / showering. It's not clear to me if he showers before he does all of this and then also again or whatever. I know the cold exposure has a relationship with the working out itself. Like if you do cold exposure after you work your muscles, it'll like cinch them, make them more muscly. I'm not exactly sure. But according to him, cold exposure also has a number of other health benefits. So not only does it have a relationship with when you work out, it's good for your muscles, but it also has a sort of mental toughness and resilience benefit. So as you experience a cold exposure, you sort of shock your system and get yourself used to doing hard things is kind of the idea behind it. By the way, I will have a very detailed document I found about each and every individual step of this that Huberman goes into with references to his podcast episodes where he talks about it if you want to review that. I did not make it. I just found it on Reddit. It'll be in the description box below. So if you want to learn more about the actual science behind every individual one of these things, go check that out. But to my knowledge, cold exposure is about that sort of mental toughness and about that relationship with working out. So I don't know if he does it every single day. I'm going to try to do a cold shower after I work out where possible, just to give it a shot. And then finally, he has his first meal. So he says he eats around like 1 p.m. because he is intermittent fasting. So I'm going to probably bump that up to like 12 p.m. just given like how long I think these things will take. I have intermittent fasted before in the past and I really did enjoy it, especially like to regulate my blood sugar. He has entire episodes on why intermittent fasting is healthy for you, among things like regulating your system. So again, those resources will be linked down in the description below. I am not a science podcast here, but he has one, so you should go check that out. But basically what I found worked really well for me with intermittent fasting was I was just able to focus a lot better in the morning, and then in the afternoon I was able to be like a little bit sleepier because I was digesting. Then in the afternoon you do some low-key work. If you guys saw my video on Daniel Pink's When, this is really tracks with that, doing sort of administrative work in the afternoon, and then before bed he dims the lights and reads before he goes to sleep, and then has no screen time 1 hour before bed. Now that we've gone through what Huberman's daily routine is, let's look at how I need to fit it into my schedule.
Before that though, let me tell you about a different super annoying routine that I have. Every few months, like clockwork, I go poking around in my bank account and end up finding subscriptions I didn't even know I had. Random apps, services I don't even use, podcasts I don't even listen to. That's where today's sponsor, Rocket Money, comes in. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, manage your bills, and handle your finances better. I'm using the app to get rid of all these memberships I don't need. They will safely and securely identify reoccurring charges and cancel unwanted subscriptions for you. Rocket Money helps save its customers up to $740 per year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. I am also using Rocket Money to lower my bills. If you upload a photo of your bill, they will actually contact the company and negotiate a lower price for you. You can also unlock even more features with premium, but to get started for free, go to rocketmoney.com/Rachelle. Rachel in theory. Okay, let's get back to Mr. Huberman.
So this is a whole block that I just drew that sort of describes and showcases how I am planning on fitting this into my day, or rather my week. So as you can see here, there's my handy dandy pen. I am working from home Monday and Tuesday, and then I'm in the office Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. My 9 to 5 is hybrid schedule. So I have a couple days at home and I have a couple days in the office. Top of that 9 to 5, I also have YouTube and I work on YouTube during the weekends. And I have a pretty thriving social life. So I have a few social calendar items on here as well. And to be honest, this is looking a little rough to me. It's looking a little bit rough. So here's what I've done. Here's what I estimate. I'll be waking up at 6 a.m. and then in the first half hour of waking, this pink stripe right here, I will wake up, I will do my sun exposure, I will meditate, I will hydrate. That will all take me about 30 minutes. And I can do that every single day. Then we get to our very first problem, which is that on the days that I work from home, I don't need to be anywhere. I don't need to get ready. I don't need to put makeup on. I can get right into my 90-minute work block just like Mr. Huberman recommends. However, on the days that I'm in office, I cannot do that because first I have to get to the office and secondly, I have to get ready to be seen, which means I can't be just throwing my hair in a bun and putting a sweater on in order to get my 90-minute work block done. I need to be in a blazer. I need to be in nice pants. I need to be looking professional. And then I need to take the bus to get to work. So immediately my 90-minute work block has to shift for the days that I am in office. And I also have, at my office job, I also have a lot of meetings. Every single morning I have a 9 a.m. meeting, which means that my work block cannot start before like 9:30 on most days that I'm in the office, or that I'm working really, because that's also true of days that I'm working from home. I just can get my 90-minute work block in earlier. So I have a lot of meetings and they always end up in the morning for some reason. I don't necessarily have the luxury of saying, okay, I'm not gonna have any meetings in the morning. I don't really have that luxury at work. So we just have to work with the meeting schedule. Now for this particular week that I'm planning this out, I know that I have a lot of meetings on Thursday morning and then I will have some meetings before 9:30 on the other 2 days. So for those 2 days, I'm going to try to get my 90-minute work block in the morning anyway. And I'm gonna put it at 9:30 and have it go to 11 Friday and Wednesday. I'm just not gonna be able to get my 90-minute work block in before the afternoon on Thursday. So I've put it right after lunch, hoping that I will be able to have some energy then to get it done. I'm not optimistic, to be quite honest with you, but at least it is planned in there at some point. And then on the weekends, I put it just a half an hour later than I have it over here on the weekday because flexibility is fun, I guess. So I will be able to get that in there, but of course, during the days that I'm in the office, I have to be kind of flexible. To be honest, I'm really skeptical about getting these 90-minute work blocks done at all during the day in the office because I also need to be attending Slack and my email pretty heavily. Like I rarely get big blocks of time where I can just not look at Slack, not look at my email, not be contacted in some way to do something at work. I almost never get 90 minutes alone. So I'm not so certain that these will be able to work because I can't really like shut off communications during my work day. My workplace just doesn't work like that, but we'll try. And then what he says is he works out. He has caffeine and he works out. I didn't put caffeine on the schedule because I will probably just drink it around 9 or 10 like I do anyway. So I didn't put it on the schedule, but it's in there. And then he has a workout block, which I put in this green color. And here's the deal. On days when I'm just working for myself, which is on the weekend, I can do my workout right after the 90-minute work block, just like Mr. Huberman wants us to. But on the other days, I cannot do that. So on these days that I'm working from home, I can take slightly longer lunches. If I start earlier, you can see I'm starting at 8 here, starting at 8:30 on the days that I work from the office. If I start slightly earlier, I can take an extra half hour on my lunch, and that's usually fine. So on these days, I can work out on my lunch and still be back mostly in time for the afternoon. But on the in-office days, the first thing that I have to sacrifice is unfortunately working out. I'm just simply not going to get to it these 3 days because the commute, the meetings, the short lunch, then the afternoon, then the commute, then the stuff going on at night, I'm just not going to be able to get to it. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk during my lunch for a half hour. I have half-hour walk built in there. It is still some movement. It is not quite the working out that I think Mr. Huberman wants you to do, but it's still some movement, and I think that's a good thing. So that's what I'm going to do on days when I'm in the office. And then he has cold exposure or showering. Again, I'm not going to be able to do that at all when I'm in the office because I will have already showered in the morning, gotten ready to go to work, and I can't just like dunk my face in some cold water in the middle of a work day while I'm at professional office. So I'm only going to be doing cold exposure on the weekends. And then right after my workout when I work from home, and I'm just going to take a cold shower is how I'm going to get through that. And then finally he eats his first meal, and so I have planned in my first food. I don't have dinner written in here, but I just have when I'm breaking my fast at around 12, and I will be breaking my fast at around 12 instead of around 1 like he does. On the days that I work from home, I'm just going to be heating something up and eating it while I get back into my work, which I frankly do already way too often. On the days that I am in the office, I'll take a half an hour for lunch and then a half an hour for that walk. And then on the days when I am truly working for myself on the weekends, I'll have food around 12 in between doing other YouTube stuff like filming or scripting. So I'm breaking my fast between 12 and 1. Between 12 and 2 is sort of like when I start eating during the day. And then I have some admin work in the afternoon, and then in the evening is where the social life really pops off / all the chores as well. I have therapy on Mondays, and then I do laundry and cooking, but I have plotted in his ideal schedule, which is no screens. That's this purple line, no screens, an hour before bed. And if I'm going to wake up at 6, I have to go to bed at 10. So this is the ideal. As you can see, many of my regular social activities go beyond the bedtime. So that's going to be really, really, really hard. I'm going to try to do it like on these days when I have social engagements, like I'll probably be in bed by 11 or 11:30. So I can at the very least try not to look at my phone before those times at the very least. God, getting up the next day is going to be really hard if I'm going to bed so late. We're going to try it out. And then I won't be able to read every single night, but hopefully I'll be able to read before bed at least some nights. I already do that most nights before bed. So I'm a little skeptical about the night routine and how that will affect the morning routine, simply because again, I'm trying to balance a 9 to 5 YouTube career plus having a social life and doing chores and stuff. So I have laundry and cooking over here on Monday, which is when I do most of my big chores. And again, that also usually extends like past 9 p.m. But we're gonna do what we can. I have plenty of time over here on Saturday and Sunday in the afternoon to get my weekend chores out of the way, which are not quote unquote big chores. They just basically don't take as long as laundry and cooking does, but they're like other smaller chores. So I have plenty of the time to do those over here on the weekend. But yeah, I'm a little nervous about like the fact that most of my social engagements just go late. Here's one thing that I don't want to sacrifice is having fun. I want to do all of this stuff. I want to be like an optimized human, but I don't want to like not live the life I want to live in order to be optimized. That just doesn't seem right. I'm not a robot. So I'm gonna try this. This is what I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna check in with you in a few minutes to see how it goes. It'll be a week later for me, but it'll be a few minutes for you. So let's get into the rest of the video.
Okay, welcome back. It has been a whole week for me and just a minute for you guys. We just left off on me discussing my ideal schedule, and now we're going to look at what actually happened. So this is the ideal schedule with everything perfectly planned in, and this was my reality. At first glance, it might not look that different, but believe me, it was pretty dang different. So let's start with the first item on Huberman's list, which is to wake up and note the time. So I actually did that. When I finally woke up, I was able to put it down in this little notebook that I kept beside my bed, but I did not wake up at 6 a.m. like I had planned to. Absolutely did not. I find waking up in the mornings to be really, really challenging. It's one of the reasons that I got into Andrew Huberman was because he has a lot of advice about sleeping better, so sleeping and waking up better. I just think I need more time practicing this routine to be able to really control the time that I wake up as effectively as possible. Huberman also recommends that you wake up naturally and don't use an alarm. This is the first time we are seeing that with a 9 to 5, some things that Huberman does are just not possible. I needed an alarm to get myself out of bed, to get myself to work, because I had work very early in the morning. So the days I was able to control my own wake up time on the weekends were amazing. I woke up really late according to what I had planned, but I woke up naturally, and so going outside and getting the sun and like being chill, it felt very relaxed. It felt awesome. So in the morning morning, right after you wake up, you're supposed to go get your sunlight and drink your water and also meditate. I meditated almost none of the time. I meditated on this first day, but then I felt so rushed getting into work at 8 a.m. I felt like I maybe didn't even reap the benefits of it. And meditating is one of those habits that is also really hard for me, so I just ended up not doing it the rest of the week. I will say that getting sunlight and water in the morning was so awesome, and I was able to do it pretty consistently every single morning. On the days I was at home, I just got my sunlight on my roof. We have a rooftop patio, and I drank my water while I wasn't sitting in the sun, and it felt amazing. It felt great. On the days when I was in the office, there is actually a built-in walk from my bus stop to my office that is about 10 minutes, and I was able to get my sunlight during that walk. So the first part of the commute was on the bus. The second part of the commute was walking from the bus stop to my office, and it worked out perfectly. So I got a little sunlight and I got a little walk in. The next thing on Huberman's list is the 90-minute work block where you are working on your most important tasks with no distractions. This one, let me say, was the hardest thing to get in. It was so hard. I mentioned in the previous half that I have a lot of meetings at my job, and I do, and many of them take place in the morning. I don't know what it is. There's just a culture at my workplace where we like to schedule meetings for the morning, even though it's not personally my fave, but if you've ever worked at a 9 to 5 with people above you who have certain meeting habits, you know that you kind of have to follow their meeting habits sometimes. Even with all these meetings in the morning, I was able to get one 90-minute work block in the morning during my work week, which was great. It was so awesome. I loved doing it. The reason Huberman recommends you have your work block in the morning is because in the morning, our brains are wired to be more analytical, to be better at decision making, to just be more effective at doing the sort of, basically the sort of work that I do, which requires a lot of those two muscles. So doing a 90-minute work block in the morning on Wednesday was so awesome. Even if I can't get a 90-minute work block in every single day at work, I think trying to protect one day a week where I can just cut through all of my most important tasks in the morning when my brain is primed for that kind of work with no distractions would be so awesome, because it was really helpful. In the afternoons, it may look like I have all this time here and on Friday, but truly in the afternoons, a lot of interruptions happen, which is fine. It's not a big deal. A lot of times I have like my student workers working, my student interns working with me, and they just will need help and they'll interrupt me, or my boss will need something, or my boss's boss's boss will need something, or something happens where I'm interrupted frequently and cannot get like more than a solid half hour without like a Slack coming through, which is fine. I'm not complaining about my work, but that's why it looks like I have all this time here and I didn't get 90-minute work blocks in here because I just wasn't in the condition where I could, even if I wasn't actually having meetings. That said, I was able to get one 90-minute work block done in the evening or in the afternoon, and that was good, but it wasn't as good as the morning work block. So I really could understand why you should do it in the morning and not in the afternoon when you're sort of decompressing, especially from like your first meal. Now that said, on the weekends, I was totally able to get my 90-minute work block done, and it was awesome. My weekend work is taken up by YouTube, so on this day I was scripting and making a thumbnail, and then this work block is happening right now, and I am filming. It's in the afternoon because I didn't film in the morning because I just like wanted a chill morning, but alas, I am getting all the work done in this work block, which is about 3 hours. But filming is so easy to shove into a work block because you literally don't have any distractions. Like all my devices are on airplane mode and my boyfriend knows not to come in here, so it's super easy to stay focused. So I'm counting that one, I'm counting it. So I will try to keep getting 90-minute work blocks with no distractions if I can. One of the things with a 9 to 5 is that, like, at least my 9 to 5 is that I'm constantly being pulled in multiple directions and I have a lot of meetings. So it's really very rarely possible on the days I'm not literally working for myself. The next thing on Huberman's list is caffeine. And I know at the start of this, I said I would be doing yerba mate, which I did for the most part. However, the yerba mate cans that I found at the grocery store actually do break your fast, which is something that I was doing. I was intermittent fasting. And you can see here, I've written my first meal just to show when I broke my fast. Honestly, controlling the start time of breaking my fast was so much easier than controlling the end time. I was eating like basically right up until the end of the day because like something would happen where I would just like forget to eat, or I couldn't get to dinner before like 9 or 10 p.m. And that's something that I want to fix because I know that definitely helps with better sleep. But I was able to sort of control myself and eat my first meal at noon. And this is because I have intermittent fasted before and I really like it. I think it's just something that works for me personally. So I really enjoyed that process. That said, I often couldn't wait until I ate my first meal to have my first caffeine. So a lot of the mornings I just drank coffee and that was fine. I just had coffee in the morning and then I had lunch was basically what happened. And that mostly happened when I was at work, I went out and I got coffee and then I had coffee and then I ate my first meal later. That did sometimes happen like on the weekends or when I was working from home, but I did have at least a couple yerba mates throughout the week. And I will say I'm a fan, they're good, but the ones I happened to get a hold of did end up breaking my fast and I didn't want to break my fast. So I opted for coffee instead. That said, my first meal was as planned after my workouts and then on my lunches here. I did cheat a little bit on Sunday because we wanted to get breakfast and you know, sometimes I want to get breakfast, okay? And then I do. But for the most part, I did it where planned. Obviously on these 2 days, I was sort of eating it while I was working, which is not my favorite way to exist, but it happens sometimes. And then on these 2 days, Thursday and Friday, I was late to work. So I was able to get a half an hour for lunch, but I had to sacrifice the second half hour of my normally hour-long lunch. So I just ended up eating and didn't end up like going on a walk like I had planned. So intermittent fasting is definitely something that I will keep going with. I like yerba mate. I may keep going with it, but I may just do coffee because I also like coffee. So I'm not married to the tea, but I might keep doing it if I can figure out a way to do it that's compatible with the intermittent fasting, which I really liked and really worked for me. But before your first meal, what Huberman recommends is that you have a workout. And this one was also really hard to make time for. Like I said, the 90-minute work block was really hard, and then an hour-long workout was also so hard on top of everything else that I was doing. So I had initially planned to take an hour and a half lunch. So I started early when I was working from home, take an hour and a half lunch to work out and shower. But I was only able to do that on Monday. On Tuesday, we had to do some YouTube work during that time. So I did that and then I showered and then I had my meal. So that just replaced my workout. I know that I can do this, even though it is a little bit tight. Like it is, I'm kind of rushing through my workout and then rushing through my shower and then rushing to grab food so that I can sit down on time, but I can do it. It's just very hard to fit it all in. So it's not my favorite, but it was doable. And then I was able to go for a walk on one of my days in the office. Like I said, I had to sacrifice that second half hour of my lunch on the other 2 days, but the walk that I got in was nice. And then on the weekend, I was totally able to do the workout in the cold shower and it was really amazing. I did not do that today. I may go for a little walk before I get dinner with my brother later in the afternoon, but I'm not stressing too much about it. I think one day, sort of like off the perfect routine, is fine per week. So I didn't really get the workout in. I do want to keep working out. I've talked in a lot of different videos about how that works in my schedule and with my trainer and things like that. So I definitely want to keep doing that, but it is really, really hard to fit it in during the day. And then by the evening, I'm either doing something or I'm so beat from the day that I don't want to go work out and I find it really hard to motivate myself. So we will see how it fits into my schedule going forward, but it's definitely not something I'm giving up. And then Huberman also recommends that you do a cold plunge. So I don't have access to a cold plunge. So instead I did what many people do, which is a cold shower. And I tried to stay under the cold water for at least like 20 to 30 seconds. It was really hard, but I did do it almost every time, which was great. And what I did was I showered as normal and then I just turned the water too cold and then I sat there for like 30 seconds and cried basically. I really like this practice. I think it's really easy to fit into a shower routine because you're already showering. I also think it helps with my skin, but the main thing that it's supposed to help you with is building resilience. I felt immediately after the cold shower, like I was like, yeah, I can do anything. But in the following days, I didn't necessarily feel like I had a very strong resilience. So I think this is also one that I'm gonna have to keep doing. Maybe not every single day, but like twice a week and see if it has any long-term benefits. But in all honesty, I think it's very easy to tack onto your shower routine, whether you work a 9 to 5 or not. Now, the last part of the routine is the evening routine when you're supposed to dim the lights and get rid of screens and read. Initially, I had planned to do that before bed for an hour. Huberman recommends turning off your screens for at least an hour before bed. I was able to do it for like a half hour before bed because I would plug my phone in, set my alarm, and then not look at my phone or computer, wash my face, and then read for like 15 minutes when I got into bed. And that pretty much worked. It didn't work on Wednesday because we had Survivor. So we have friends over for Survivor every single week, and that goes late all the time. And so after this happened, I cleaned up and basically just crashed. And then it also didn't really work on Friday just because I truthfully forgot. I was working on Friday night on YouTube stuff. I just got to a point at the end of it and just forgot. So that's sort of when it didn't work. But the rest of the time I was able to do it for at least a half hour. I would like to get better at this, but I kind of think it's a little bit unrealistic with the type of life that I want to lead, just because so much work happens on my phone, so much socializing happens on my phone, so much of my just chilling out happens on my phone, or I do activities like watching TV or something that happens on my phone. So it's really hard for me to do this in particular, and I think that's also why I had such a hard time waking up in the mornings. So I'd really like to get better at this, but it also feels a little unrealistic sometimes. But I loved reading before bed. I read Dune. If anyone else is a sci-fi fan or has seen the movie, I saw the movie and then I was like, okay, I have to check out these books. So I read Dune before bed, and it was pretty chill and fun. And I did really, really like that because then I wasn't like literally scrolling until my eyes were closing, and that was very helpful. So the reading before bed really helped with this process, but it wasn't the end all be all, and I definitely got to get better at it. So overall, in the daily routine, I am definitely keeping sunlight exposure and morning hydration. I'm going to try to get in 90-minute work blocks where I can. I am going to continue to try to get working out in where I can, although it's obviously not going to be super frequent. I'm going to continue trying cold exposure. I'm going to continue intermittent fasting, and then I'm going to continue reading and dimming the lights before bed and try to get that up to an hour. If I can't, a half hour is fine by me. And I think I'm going to try to do that whole routine on the weekends when I'm actually just working for myself, because that was so doable and so possible. And I really had a good time, especially on Saturday when I was just like able to do all those things in the morning as they were supposed to be done. So that was great. So is Huberman possible with a full-time job? I'm gonna say no. At least not doing his routine every single day consistently with a full-time job plus a side hustle, which is actually realistically what I have. Maybe if you just have a full-time job and don't also have anything else on the side, it might be possible, but at least for the life that I am living, it was really not possible for me. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that this like middle chunk of the day, I don't control. It is not my time. It is someone else's time. So I definitely think some things are easier to fit in than others, and some things I like more than other aspects of the routine. But that is basically my advice, is that if you have a 9 to 5, you really need to customize this routine to work for yourself and for your schedule.
There you have it. That was my experience trying Huberman's daily routine on top of my 9 to 5 and my YouTube channel. I learned a lot. There's some stuff I'm taking with me and some stuff I am definitely leaving behind. Have you ever tried any of Andrew Huberman's tips or daily routines? If you have, let me know down in the comments what worked for you and what didn't. If you want more content about how I schedule my time, go ahead and click right here on the screen next to my head for a video about that, including how I spend my time on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, for being awesome, for being subscribed. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one.